I thought I knew the woman I was going to marry. Emma and I had spent 2 beautiful years together, building what I believed was an unshakable foundation. She was my best friend, my partner, the person I wanted to wake up next to for the rest of my life. But then her family decided I needed to sign a prenuptial agreement. When I read through that contract, I realized they were not just protecting their daughter. They were trying to trap me to strip away every right I had. What they did not know, what Emma had apparently never mentioned, was that I am not just some guy who fell in love with their daughter. I am a contract lawyer, and I know exactly how to recognize a predatory agreement when I see one. Before I tell you how I turned the tables on them, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button if you have ever felt underestimated by people who thought they were better than you. And subscribe, because you will not believe how this prenup battle ended. Trust me, this story gets wild. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. My name is Jackson, and I am 32 years old. I work as a contract lawyer at a mid-sized firm in Chicago called Rothman & Klein. We handle corporate agreements, mergers, small acquisitions. Nothing glamorous, but I am good at what I do. I make around $85,000 a year before taxes. Not rich by any means, but comfortable. I rent a 1-bedroom apartment in Lincoln Park, drive a 2018 Honda Civic, and I have been saving up for a down payment on a condo. My life is simple, stable, and honestly I like it that way. I met Emma 2 years ago at a coffee shop near my office. It was one of those perfect autumn mornings in Chicago when the air is crisp and the leaves are just starting to turn. I was working on my laptop reviewing a contract for a client when this woman rushed past my table. She was carrying way too many things: a portfolio, a large purse, her phone, and a paper cup of coffee. Everything went crashing down. The coffee spilled directly onto my keyboard. I looked up ready to be annoyed, but then I saw her face. She was mortified, apologizing profusely, trying to wipe my laptop with napkins that were just making it worse. Her cheeks were flushed, her brown hair falling out of a messy bun, and she had these warm hazel eyes that were filled with genuine panic. I could not help but laugh. Something about the chaos of the moment felt oddly charming. We spent the next hour talking while my laptop dried out. I learned that her name was Emma. She was 29, and she worked as an independent interior designer. She showed me photos of her projects on her phone spaces she had transformed with colors and textures that somehow felt both bold and comforting. She was passionate, creative, and had this gentle way of speaking that put me at ease immediately. We exchanged numbers. 3 days later, we went on our first date, then a second, then a third. Before I knew it, Emma became part of my daily routine. We cooked dinner together in my tiny kitchen, experimented with recipes neither of us really knew how to make. We walked along Lake Michigan on weekends, talking about everything and nothing. We watched old movies on my couch, her head resting on my shoulder. It was easy, natural, like we had known each other for years. Emma was everything I wanted in a partner. She was kind, thoughtful, creative. She listened when I talked about work, even when I knew contract law was boring. She made me laugh. She made me feel seen. I fell in love with her completely. Last October, I took her to Lincoln Park, to the same bench where we had shared our first kiss months earlier. The leaves were golden, and red falling gently around us. I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. She said yes, tears streaming down her face. It was the happiest moment of my life. But then came the reality of meeting her family. Emma had mentioned her parents before, but always in vague terms. Her father, William, was the CEO of a medical equipment manufacturing company. Her mother, Patricia, was a former corporate lawyer who now spent her time doing charity work. They lived in Winnetka, one of the wealthiest suburbs north of Chicago. Emma had always been a little evasive when I asked about introducing me to them. She would smile nervously and say, "They're just really particular about who I date." I assumed they were protective, maybe a little old-fashioned. I thought if they saw how much I loved their daughter, they would warm up to me. I was wrong. For 2 years, Emma kept putting off the introduction. She would make excuses. They were traveling, they were busy, the timing was not right. But after I proposed, she knew we could not avoid it any longer. She called them to share the news. When she hung up the phone, her face was pale. "They want to meet you," she said quietly. "Next week." I could hear the anxiety in her voice. I reached for her hand. "It will be fine," I told her. "They will see that I love you. That is all that matters." She nodded, but she did not look convinced. The following Saturday, we drove to Winnetka. The house was exactly what I expected. A 3-story European-style mansion with manicured lawns, an iron gate, and a circular driveway. I parked my Honda next to a Mercedes and a Range Rover. I felt out of place before I even got out of the car. I wore my best suit, brought a bouquet of flowers, and a bottle of wine. Emma squeezed my hand as we walked to the front door. "Just be yourself," she whispered. Patricia answered the door. She was 55, blonde hair, perfectly styled, wearing a Chanel dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She looked at me with cold blue eyes, her smile polite but distant. "You must be Jackson," she said, taking the flowers without looking at them. "Come in." Inside the house was immaculate. Marble floors, high ceilings, expensive artwork on every wall. Everything felt cold despite the obvious wealth. William appeared from a side room. He was 60 tall, silver-haired, wearing an Armani suit even though we were at home. He shook my hand with a grip that was just a little too firm, like he was testing me. Dinner was served in a formal dining room. We sat at a table that could have seated 12 people. The food was prepared by their private chef, herb-crusted lamb-roasted vegetables, some kind of fancy potato dish I could not identify. Everything tasted incredible, but I could barely enjoy it. Patricia started the interrogation almost immediately. "So Jackson, Emma tells us you are a lawyer," she said, sipping her wine. "What kind of law do you practice?" "Contract law," I replied. "I work at Rothman and Klein. We handle corporate agreements, business contracts, that sort of thing." "How practical," she said. The way she said it made it clear she did not think it was impressive. William leaned forward. "What is your annual income, if you do not mind me asking?" I felt Emma stiffen beside me. I kept my voice steady. Around $85,000 a year before taxes. William and Patricia exchanged a look. I saw the disappointment flash across their faces. "And do you own any property?" Patricia asked. "Not yet," I said. "But I am saving for a down payment on a condo." "I see," she said, her tone making it clear she did not see how I could possibly be good enough for her daughter. The rest of dinner continued in the same vein. They asked about my family, my background, my plans for the future. Every answer I gave seemed to confirm their belief that I was beneath them. Emma barely spoke. She sat with her eyes down, pushing food around her plate. I wanted her to say something to defend me, but she stayed silent. After dessert, William stood. "Emma, we need to speak with you privately." Emma looked at me, then followed her parents out of the room. I sat alone at that enormous table, listening to the muffled sound of voices from another room. I could not make out the words, but the tone was clear. They were arguing. 15 minutes later, Emma came back. Her eyes were red. Patricia and William followed their expressions hard. Patricia looked at me and said, "We have some concerns about this engagement." The drive home was silent. Emma stared out the window, wiping away tears she thought I could not see. I kept my hands on the steering wheel, trying to process what had just happened. When we finally got back to my apartment, Emma collapsed onto the couch. "They want us to sign a prenup," she said quietly. I sat down next to her. "Emma, I do not care about a prenup. I am not marrying you for money. I am marrying you because I love you." "I know," she whispered. "But they will not budge on this. They said if we do not sign one, they will cut me off completely." That caught me off guard. "Cut you off," she nodded. "They pay for my studio space. They help me start my business. If they pull that support." She trailed off, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. I felt a surge of anger, not at Emma, but at her parents. They were using their money to control her, to control us. But I kept my voice calm. "Okay," I said. "If it means that much to them, I will sign it. I have nothing to hide." Emma looked relieved, but the worry never left her eyes. 2 weeks later, I received an email from Stewart & Associates, one of the largest law firms in Chicago. The subject line read, "Prenuptial agreement for review." The message was polite but cold. "Please review the attached prenuptial agreement. We expect your signature by December 15th. I downloaded the attachment. 53 pages. I spent that entire evening reading through it. With every page, my disbelief grew. This was not a standard prenup. This was a document designed to strip me of every right I might have in the marriage. Clause 1 stated that any assets Emma inherited or already owned would remain solely hers. Fine, I had no problem with that. But Clause 2 said that any property purchased during the marriage, if any money from Emma's family contributed even partially to the purchase, would belong entirely to Emma. That meant, if we bought a house together, and her parents gave us $10,000 toward the down payment, I would have no claim to it, even if I paid the mortgage for 20 years. Clause 3 was about children. It stated that in the event of a divorce, custody would default to Emma, unless she explicitly agreed otherwise. I could not believe what I was reading. You cannot waive parental rights in a prenup. Custody is determined by the court based on what is best for the child. Clause 4 said that if I committed infidelity, I would owe Emma $500,000 in damages. But Clause 5 said that if Emma committed infidelity, there would be no financial penalty. The double standard was staggering. Clause 6 required me to waive any right to spousal support regardless of the circumstances. Even if I lost my job, even if I became disabled, I could never ask for financial help. Clause 7 stated that any disputes arising from the agreement would be handled by a private arbitrator chosen solely by Emma's family. Not a neutral party. Not a court. An arbitrator they selected. I read the entire document twice. By the time I finished, I was furious. This was not about protecting Emma. This was about making sure I had no power, no voice, no rights. They were betting that I was just some naive guy who would sign anything to marry the woman he loved. I called Emma. "Did you read this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level. "Not really," she admitted. "My parents' lawyer said it was standard. Standard I could not help the edge in my voice. Emma, this thing is designed to destroy me if anything goes wrong. It is completely one-sided. Maybe you are overreacting," she said, but she sounded uncertain. "Just sign it, Jackson. Please. I cannot deal with them being angry at both of us." That hurt more than anything her parents had done. She was asking me to accept this humiliation just to keep the peace. "I will think about it," I said, and hung up. I did not sleep that night. A week later, I received another email. This one was an invitation to meet at the offices of Stewart and Associates to discuss the agreement. I knew what this really was. They wanted to pressure me into signing in person to make me feel small and powerless. I accepted the meeting. The offices were on the 40th floor of one of Chicago's tallest buildings. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lake Michigan. The view was breathtaking, and I was sure that was intentional. They wanted me to feel how high above me they were. I was led into a conference room. William and Patricia were already there, sitting on one side of a long table. Next to them sat Gerald Stewart, the senior partner. He was around 60, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car, with silver hair and an expression of complete confidence. Emma sat at the far end of the table, looking small and miserable. Gerald started talking before I even sat down. "Mr. Jackson, we have prepared this prenuptial agreement to protect our client's interests. It is quite comprehensive, as you have seen." "I noticed," I said. "But some of these clauses are unconscionable." Gerald smiled. The kind of smile a cat gives a mouse. Unconscionable. That is a legal term. "Do you understand what it means?" I met his eyes. "Yes, I do." William leaned forward. "Look, son, this is just how things are done in families like ours. You seem like a nice guy, but Emma is our only daughter. We need to make sure she is protected." Patricia nodded. "You understand, do not you? We just want to make sure no one takes advantage of her." Takes advantage, I felt my jaw tighten. "I love her. I have never wanted anything from her except her." Gerald pushed a pen and the contract across the table toward me. "Love does not pay the bills, Mr. Jackson. Now, if you will just sign here, we can all move forward." William's voice took on a harder edge. "We have been very generous, frankly. Most men in your position would be grateful for the opportunity to marry into this family." I looked at Emma. She was staring at her hands, refusing to meet my eyes. In that moment, something inside me snapped. Not with anger, but with clarity. This was not just about money or legal protections. This was about respect. And they had none for me. Gerald tapped the contract. "We do not have all day. Sign or do not sign, but make a decision." Patricia added, "If you truly love Emma, you will sign without hesitation. This should not be difficult." I set the pen down. Every eye in the room turned to me. "I need to review this with my own attorney," I said calmly. Gerald actually laughed. "Your own attorney? That will cost you money you do not have." I smiled for the first time since I had walked into that room. "Actually, I will not need to hire anyone." William frowned. "What do you mean?" I said slowly, "I am an attorney, specialized in contract law." The room went completely silent. Patricia's mouth opened slightly. William's confident expression faltered. Gerald's smirk disappeared. "You are a lawyer," Patricia finally said. "Yes," I replied. "Did Emma not mention that I work at Rothman and Klein? We handle corporate contracts, mergers, acquisitions. I have reviewed and negotiated agreements worth millions of dollars." Gerald's face had gone from smug to cautious. I could see him reassessing me, realizing I was not the easy target he had assumed. I pulled out my own notes from my briefcase. And as a lawyer, I can tell you this prenup would not hold up in any court. What are you talking about? William demanded. I stood up, spreading my notes on the table. Let me explain. Clause 7. The arbitration requirement with an arbitrator chosen solely by your family that is unconscionable and against public policy. No court would enforce it. Clause 12. The complete waiver of spousal support, regardless of circumstances. Illinois law allows judges to invalidate that if it would leave one party destitute. Clause 4 versus Clause 5. Infidelity penalties that only apply to one party that is discriminatory and unenforceable. I looked directly at Gerald. And Clause 9, the custody waiver. You cannot waive parental rights in a prenup. Custody is determined by the court based on the best interest of the child. You know all this, counselor. You were counting on me not knowing it. Gerald's face flushed red. This is standard practice in high-net-worth families. No, I cut him off. This is predatory. You drafted this document assuming I was some naive kid who would sign anything to marry Emma. You bet on me being desperate or ignorant. You were wrong on both counts. Patricia stood up. This is outrageous. We are trying to protect our daughter. By humiliating her fiancé, I shot back. By making sure he has no rights in his own marriage, that is not protection, that is control. William's voice was ice. You need to watch your tone. No, I said firmly. You need to watch yours. I am not your employee. I am not asking you for money. I am asking to marry the woman I love, and I am willing to sign a fair prenup. But this, I gestured at the document. This is not fair. This is designed to make sure I am always beneath you, always powerless, always less than. Emma finally looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. I took a breath and continued. I will sign a prenup, but it is going to be fair to both of us. Fair. William practically spat the word. Yes, fair, I said. I pulled out a document I had drafted the night before. Any assets Emma inherits or owned before marriage remain hers. I have absolutely no problem with that. Any assets I earn or owned before marriage remain mine. Any assets we build together during our marriage get split 50-50 if we divorce. Custody gets decided by the court based on what is best for our children, not by contract. The infidelity clause applies equally to both parties, or we remove it entirely. Spousal support gets determined by a court if necessary, and disputes get handled by a neutral arbitrator or through the court system. I slid my version across the table. This protects both of us, not just Emma. Patricia's face was scarlet. This is outrageous. You are trying to get your hands on our family money. No, I said calmly. I am trying to protect my future too. What if my law career takes off? What if I become a partner at my firm and start making more than Emma? What if I build something valuable? This prenup needs to protect both of us, not just one. William stood up, towering over the table. You are delusional if you think we would ever agree to. Then we will not get married. The words hung in the air. Emma gasped. Gerald looked shocked. William and Patricia stared at me like I had just slapped them. Emma's voice was small. Jackson, I turned to her. Emma, I love you more than anything. But I will not marry into a family that does not respect me. If they cannot accept these terms, then maybe we are not meant to be together. Emma's face crumpled. You would walk away. I would walk away from disrespect, I said gently. Not from you. But you have to choose. Them or us. Their control or our partnership. The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear the clock on the wall ticking, the faint hum of the building's air conditioning the sound of my own heartbeat. William and Patricia were staring at Emma, waiting for her to side with them like she always had. But Emma stood up. She walked over to stand beside me. Then she turned to face her parents. Dad, Mom, she said, her voice shaking but determined. I need to say something. Patricia held up her hand. Emma, sit down. No. Emma's voice was stronger now. I have been quiet this whole time, and that was wrong. Jackson has been nothing but respectful to you, to me, to our relationship. And you have treated him like he is worthless. We are protecting you. William started. From what Emma's voice rose. From a successful attorney who loves me, from a man who respects himself enough not to be bullied. You are not protecting me. You are controlling me just like you have controlled every aspect of my life since I was born. Tears were streaming down her face, but she did not stop. You chose where I went to college. You chose what I studied. You vetted every man I ever dated, and found them all lacking. You wanted me to marry someone from your world. Someone who would do whatever you said. But that is not what I want. Patricia's expression was a mixture of shock and fury. If you go against us on this, we will cut you off. Then cut me off, Emma shouted. I will build my own business. I will find my own clients. I will support myself. I am 29 years old, and I am done letting you make my decisions for me. She looked at me and I saw something in her eyes I had never seen before. Strength, determination, freedom. I choose Jackson, she said, and I agree to his terms. His prenup is fair, and if you cannot see that, then you do not trust me to make my own choices. The room was so quiet I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. William looked at Patricia. Patricia looked at Gerald. Gerald, for the first time, looked uncomfortable. Finally, Gerald cleared his throat. These terms are actually quite standard for a mutual prenuptial agreement. Many of my clients use similar language. William's jaw clenched. We are not most clients, Dad, Emma said firmly. Either you accept Jackson's prenup or you do not come to the wedding. Your choice. I had never been more proud of anyone in my life. William and Patricia sat in stunned silence for what felt like an eternity. Finally, William spoke. Fine. We will accept the terms. Patricia looked like she wanted to argue, but William put his hand on her arm. We will accept them, he repeated. I extended my hand to William. This time, when he shook it, the grip was firm but not punishing. It was the handshake of equals. Gerald said he would have the new prenup drafted within the week. We all left that conference room changed. Emma walked out holding my hand, her head high. Her parents walked out having lost the control they had always taken for granted. And I walked out having learned that sometimes love means standing your ground. 2 weeks later, Emma and I signed the revised prenuptial agreement. It was fair, balanced, and protected both of us. We got married 3 months after that in a small ceremony. William and Patricia attended, but things between us were different. Colder, more formal, but also finally respectful. That was 3 years ago. Emma and I are still married, still deeply in love. We live in a 2-bedroom condo we bought together without any help from her parents. Emma's interior design business has grown tremendously. She has clients all over Chicago now, and she did it on her own. I made partner at Rothman & Klein last year. Our combined income has actually grown beyond what I ever expected. Our relationship with William and Patricia is complicated. They are not warm or affectionate with me. We see them maybe once a month for dinner. The conversations are polite, but distant. Patricia still makes little comments, sometimes subtle digs about my background or my career. William still tries to assert dominance in small ways, but they have learned to respect boundaries. Last month, William actually called me to ask for advice on a contract dispute his company was having. He needed a lawyer's perspective, and he came to me. When I gave him my professional opinion, he listened. He thanked me. It was the first time he had ever acknowledged that I might actually be good at what I do. Emma has changed too. She has become more confident, more independent. She makes her own decisions now, without looking over her shoulder for her parents' approval. She stands up for herself and for us. The woman who sat silent at that first dinner is gone. In her place is someone stronger, someone I admire even more than I did before. Looking back, I do not regret how things happened. Yes, it was painful. Yes, it changed my relationship with Emma's family forever. But it also taught me something crucial about self-respect. I learned that respect is not given freely. You have to demand it. If you let people treat you as less, then they will keep doing it. Standing up for yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. It is healthy. It is the foundation of any real relationship. I also learned that real love does not ask you to diminish yourself. Emma had to make a choice that day in that conference room, and I am grateful she chose us. Chose our partnership over her parents' control. But I also learned that I could not sacrifice my dignity, not even for love. Because a relationship built on one person's humiliation is not a relationship worth having. Family dynamics are complicated. I understand that William and Patricia were trying to protect their daughter. They had seen Emma's previous relationships fail. They worried about fortune hunters and people who might take advantage of her kindness. Their instincts were not entirely wrong. But they forgot that Emma is an adult capable of making her own choices, her own mistakes, her own triumphs. Sometimes the best way to become part of a family is to show them you will not be pushed around. Ironically, by standing up to them, I earned a measure of their respect that I never would have gotten by signing that first prenup. My career as a lawyer definitely saved me in that situation. Having the knowledge to recognize what they were trying to do, having the language to articulate why it was wrong that made all the difference. But it was not just about knowing the law. It was about knowing my worth. They underestimated me because they judged me by my bank account instead of my character or my abilities. That was their mistake. I do not hate William or Patricia. I really do not. I understand they came from a place of wanting to protect their daughter. But protection should never mean disrespect. Love should never require someone to make themselves smaller. And family should never be about control. If I could go back and change how things happened, I would not. That prenup battle was the best thing that could have happened to our relationship. It forced Emma to choose to stand up to find her own voice. It forced me to advocate for myself instead of just trying to make everyone happy. It set the tone for our marriage. We are partners, equals, a team. Emma and I have talked about having children soon. When we do, I hope we can teach them what we learned. That love means respecting your partner's worth. That family means supporting each other's growth, not controlling each other's choices. That sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone make their own decisions, even if you are scared they might be wrong. I think about that day in the conference room a lot. The moment when Emma stood up and walked over to my side of the table. The look on William's face when he realized he could not bully me. The feeling of holding my ground even though I was terrified Emma might choose them over me. Those moments taught me that you cannot build a life with someone while living under someone else's thumb. You cannot create a real partnership if one person is always considered less than. You cannot have genuine love without mutual respect. So to anyone listening to this story, whether you are facing a prenup situation or any other moment where someone is trying to make you feel small, remember this. Read everything before you sign it. Do not let anyone pressure you into accepting terms that diminish you. Do not sign something just because someone tells you it is standard or everyone does it. And most importantly, never let anyone make you feel like you are not worthy of respect, dignity, and fairness. If someone hands you a contract, any contract, take the time to read it carefully. Understand what you are agreeing to. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Get a second opinion. Ask questions. Do not be afraid to push back. And if someone tries to intimidate you or make you feel stupid for not immediately agreeing to their terms, that tells you everything you need to know about their intentions. People who respect you will give you time to think. People who value you will want you to understand what you are signing. People who see you as an equal will create agreements that protect both parties, not just themselves. Looking back now, that prenup battle was a gift. It showed me who Emma really was, underneath the pressure of her parents. It showed her who she could become when she found her courage. It showed William and Patricia that their daughter was stronger than they thought. And it showed me that I could stand up for myself even when everything was on the line. In the end, that is worth more than any inheritance, any family connection, any amount of money. Self-respect, mutual respect, a partnership built on equality. Those are the things that matter. Those are the things that last. So the next time someone underestimates you, let them. Let them assume you do not know what you are doing. Let them think you are naive, or desperate, or weak. And then show them exactly who you are. Because the sweetest victory is not proving someone wrong. It is proving yourself right. Have you ever been underestimated because of your background or your income? Have you ever had to stand up to someone who thought they were better than you? Drop a comment below and share your story. I would love to hear how you handled it. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories about standing up for yourself and finding your strength. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that they are worthy of respect, no matter what their bank account says. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it reminded you that you deserve to be treated with dignity always. Stay strong, know your worth, and never let anyone make you feel small. Until next time, take care of yourselves.